Today, let's talk about MakerDAO, the collateralized debt position, or CDP, and why I think MakerDAO and DAI is one of the coolest tools that you can use in the cryptocurrency world right now. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Crypto Bobby. Hope you are having a great day, great night, wherever you are watching or listening in from. And yep, today we're talking about MakerDAO CDPs and want to walk through at a really high level what a CDP is, how somebody might be able to utilize it, what are the positives, what are the negatives of it, what are some of the alternatives, kind of give you a holistic view at what this is, because we talked about it previously, or I talked about it previously in a crypto happy hour. There were a lot of questions about it, and I talked about maybe making a video about this, kind of a little tutorial walkthrough about how you can utilize this. And there was a lot of people that said they were really interested in me doing so. So here we are. So off the bat, what the heck is a CDP? What is MakerDAO? And what is this whole deal really? Well, at a very high level, MakerDAO is a company or a project in the Ethereum community that builds technology on top of Ethereum, and it allows people to create these CDPs, or collateralized debt positions. What exactly is a CDP? Well, they tell you pretty much right in the website. CDP enables the generation of DAI stablecoins when you put up collateral, which is currently Ethereum. So you are collateralizing Ethereum, which is essentially your collateralized debt position. And by collateralizing your Ethereum, you mint new DAI. And if you're not familiar with DAI, it is a stable coin. It is somewhat similar in function to something like a Tether or a GUSD or a TUSD, or the plethora of stablecoins that are around right now. But DAI itself is initially minted through this process of creating a CDP. And why is this something that's cool? Why is this interesting at all? Well, there are some interesting benefits to collateralized debt positions, and this doesn't just apply to Maker. We'll go over some of the other alternatives in this space as well, but essentially what happens here is you put up your Ethereum, specifically Ethereum in this case, or your ETH in this example with MakerDAO CDPs. You put up your ETH and you are able to instantly get DAI back. Now, as you put up that Ethereum as collateral for that position, you actually are going to, if you do not get liquidated, and we'll get into what that really means, but if the duration of the loan works out and the price of Ethereum doesn't drop too crazy below your liquidation price, then once you pay back the DAI that you are lent, you receive your collateral back. So that is at a really high level how it functions. Is you are able to put up your Ethereum as collateral, you mint yourself DAI, and then after you use that DAI for whatever you might need it for, you pay it back, and then you receive your ETH as collateral once you pay it back. And so you might be thinking to yourself, there's a lot of other companies out there that talk about crypto lending, and there certainly are. And there are a number of different advantages to crypto lending as a whole before we get into those companies. This is something that is good for a number of different scenarios when you talk about collateralized loans within the crypto space. One of the biggest reasons that people do any type of loans within crypto, where they give up either it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever it might be, they provide that as collateral and they get either a stable coin back or they get cash back. One of the biggest reasons for doing that is it allows liquidity for your crypto assets without having to pay capital gains taxes on that. So for example, if I were to have, let's say, $50,000 worth of Ethereum and I want to go buy a car, and I want to buy that car, but if I cash out my $50,000 of Ethereum, I'm going to have to pay capital gains taxes on that, at least in the United States. And in that case, you might be paying anywhere from 10 to 40% on that crypto, depending upon how long you've held it and a bunch of other things like that. So what this allows you to do is put that $50,000 up for collateral, and you don't actually sell that Ethereum. You're simply getting money out as a loan, and that allows you to have liquidity on your asset without actually having to pay those capital gains taxes. So this is one of the mechanisms that a lot of both smaller investors as well as large kind of institutional type investors that might have some type of long position will actually utilize to avoid having to deal with those tax implications in the long run. Outside of that, other people have used something as similar or as simple as paying down credit card loans with lower interest. If you have 20% interest on a credit card loan, and you can get a crypto loan that is 5% or 1% or whatever it might be, 10%. People kind of having that interest trade-off and trading with the delta there. Auto loans, whatever it might be, just getting liquidity for your assets without having to deal with the tax implications is one of the biggest things. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, some people as well are utilizing, in this case, MakerDAO and these CDPs as a way to leverage up their assets. And I'll talk about the exact scenario in which that might happen. But before we get into MakerDAO, this isn't a commercial for them at all. And this, as always, this is not sponsored or anything like that, but there are other alternatives out there. So there's kind of two main differentiators, I would say, when it comes to these crypto loans. And if you're interested in any of these, I would just look at what matters for you. Number one, there are companies that will pay you in cash. So in the case of MakerDAO, you're not getting paid in cash. You're getting paid in DAI, which is a stable coin that is relatively stable to the US dollar, typically between 98 cents and $1.02. But you can't take that MakerDAO, or you can't take that DAI and pretty much immediately trade that off somewhere else to $1. There are not that many merchants yet that are accepting DAI or anything like that at this point in time. You could always trade that back. You could take that DAI, you could trade that for Ethereum, and then you could trade that for USD. But there are not a ton of companies that are taking DAI, as opposed to obviously USD or whatever local currency you might be dealing with. So with that being said, there's kind of two different, I think, types of these types of loans. You have crypto native loans, and then you have loans that will pay you out in the USD. So when it comes to crypto native companies, one that probably comes to mind for a lot of people is Salt Lending. They had a big ICO. There was a lot of in some cases, a little bit of turmoil around their just business as a whole. And but that's one of the big ones that you can take a look at. Salt Lending is one where you can get a loan through your crypto assets, and they currently allow for you to lend Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Dogecoin. I don't know necessarily who is putting up Dogecoin as collateral, but hey, that's where we are. And then USD coin as well. And then you have ETHLend, which is another one. And this allows you to put ETH as collateral, but then you receive their native crypto token Lend, and you pay 0 fees on that. But then you are, in that case, dealing with the Lend. In that case, you're dealing with the Lend token, which surely has its most likely liquidity potential issues to sell, and also you're dealing with the volatility associated with that as well. And then lastly, you have the, I would say, non-crypto native companies, where we're not necessarily non-crypto native, but these are companies that will give you cash out in USD versus crypto. You're not getting some type of native token or anything like that. There's no interaction of a token. You're simply putting up cryptocurrency as collateral, and they are providing you back with USD and cold hard cash in your bank account, which certainly has its positives. And there are companies like BlockFi. You might hear them on Pump's podcast quite a bit, and they've have some pretty solid investors. I know some people that work there. There's also Unchained Capital as well. And in this case, really what you do is they give you a nice calculator right on their site. If you want to get a $10,000 loan, you can either use collateral for Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. And you would have to put up, if you wanted a $10,000 loan, you would actually need to give them 5.86 Bitcoin. They'll give you $10,000 in cash back. And then there's a number of kind of interest rates components and things like that. Now, when it comes down to these, both the BlockFis and the Unchained Capitals receiving cash, Salt Lending, you can see on Salt Lending's site, they have an APR that's as low as 6% or 5.99%. And then you actually, for Salt, you need $5,000. For BlockFi, there's a number of kind of loan to value ratios that you need to be aware of, and there are also kind of interest rate components about that. So why is MakerDAO and the CDP interesting in comparison to some of the other alternatives out there? Because there are pluses and minuses really to everything here. Well, in the case of BlockFi, in the case of Unchained Capital or Salt Lending, you do have the ability, especially with BlockFi and Unchained Capital, you have the ability to get cold hard cash directly into your bank account, whether that's USD or it might be some type of foreign currency that you might need depending upon your jurisdiction. So that's fantastic. You have that ability. However, you're going to pay an interest rate. You're going to go through an approval process where, depending upon your credit worthiness, perhaps depending upon the just background of where you got your cryptocurrency from, that might preclude you from receiving a loan of any type. The cool part about a MakerDAO CDP is that this is done completely via smart contract. If you have the Ethereum that you want to collateralize, there's really no one that's going to say, this person cannot mint DAI. They cannot essentially create a CDP. They cannot give themselves a loan of DAI. So it's a more trustless kind of version, and it's a little bit more, when you look at the concept of, I don't want to say censorship, but it's a little bit maybe more censorship resistant than the process of going through a centralized company. Now, granted, there are use cases for both, for sure, and I'm not going to say there's one or the other. Now, one of the other fantastic things about this in comparison to whether it's a salt lending or a BlockFi, we saw before salt lending, their APR, or their the annual interest rate for the loan starts at 6%. BlockFi, I don't remember off the top of my head exactly, but probably starts in the 6% range and might go up to somewhere about 15% interest rate that you're paying on your loan. What do you pay with a MakerDAO CDP? You pay 0.5% per year in a stability fee. So you're talking about the difference between 6% and 0.5%. And both the centralized and the kind of decentralized version of these do have the risk with this collateral. Obviously, if you're using Bitcoin or Ethereum as collateral, there are certain collateral ratios that you need to meet, meaning that if you get $100,000 out in your loan and you put up $200,000 in Bitcoin, but Bitcoin drops 90%, you're probably going to get that loan liquidated, and there's going to be issues there. So you always have to keep that in mind because of the volatility of cryptocurrency. That is going to be something where you're always going to want to look at your collateralization levels, whether it's a MakerDAO CDP or if it's something with BlockFi or something elsewhere. But let's get into exactly how this works, the MakerDAO edition as a whole. So you have, in this case, I have 6 Ethereum right now. So I have 6 ETH. And let's just say, I want to collateralize that 6 ETH because I'm not going to use it for quite some time. I don't necessarily need it right now. And I want to mint some DAI because in this example, I think that Ethereum right now, as of the time of recording this video, is $105, 105.52. I think Ethereum is very undervalued. So right now, Ethereum is, it's at $105. I'm going to collateralize 6 ETH. What happens when I do that? Well, I can actually generate a maximum of 422 DAI. So that is $422. If you go to CoinMarketCap right now, DAI is sitting anywhere probably from 99 cents to $1.02. So if I click on this and I want to generate that maximum of 422 DAI, I can do that, but there's kind of a problem with that, the collateralization ratio. And what does that mean? So that means that I only have 150% collateralization ratio. Actually, in this case, 150.028%. And when you look at that, there's this thing called a liquidation price. And what that means is that if it goes below, if Ethereum in this case goes below this price, my collateral can be liquidated, and I would pay a liquidation penalty and my collateral would be liquidated. Now, it's a pretty simple thing to do here. Rather than going through the process of collateralizing with 150%, rather than taking out that max amount, I can maybe do something more comfortable here. I can take out 200 DAI. And now instead of having a liquidation price that was literally 2 cents underneath where I'm at right now, I have a liquidation price of $50. So I won't get this loan. I won't get the 6 Ethereum I won't get the 6 ETH that I put up as collateral liquidated unless Ethereum goes below $50. And as a note, you can actually add more Ethereum as collateral to this CDP over time. So if you start seeing the price of ETH go down and down, and you're like, I don't want to lose my collateral. I think it's still going to be all right in the long term, but in the short term, I need to juice this up. You can always add more collateral to your loan as well. Now, with this said, as soon as I press this button, if I want to, now with the collateralization at 316%, that's pretty comfortable. It's pretty safe. I can generate 200 DAI like that. And so if I want to do that, I could say, okay, I'm going to generate that 200 DAI. And what can you do with the DAI? So you can, like I said before, you can trade that to Ethereum. You can hold on to the DAI if you want to. You can use that potentially with a merchant, although merchant adoption is very low. What a lot of people are doing now, in addition to utilizing this maybe for some type of liquidity on their assets, is they're kind of using this as a leverage long too. Like I said before, if I think the price of Ethereum is going to go up, it's at $105 right now. I can take this 200 DAI and I can buy close to 2 Ethereum. Now, if Ethereum doubles or if Ethereum goes up, I can sell that Ethereum that I bought with my DAI, and I can take the difference, and that's straight profit. And then I can pay the initial DAI back. So we'll go to show a little bit here. So if I click collateralize and generate DAI, I've read the terms of service. I've already done so. So I'll finalize and create the CDP with 6. Make sure this looks good. Jack up the gas price a little bit. So here we are. Now the CDP, I have freshly created a CDP. Took 30 seconds. Fast forwarded that so that you didn't have to wait 30 seconds of me blabbling. But we can click on this button, click OK. And right now you can see that I used to have 6.2 or around 6.2 Ethereum in my wallet, in my balance. And I had 4,000 DAI. Now I have 4,200 DAI. So I added my 200 DAI, and I can keep track of this entire CDP right here. So I can either deposit more Ethereum into it. I can withdraw a bit more. I can do a little bit to play around here. And I can also pay back, or I can pay back my full loan. I can even generate more that will get me closer to, again, like we talked about, that minimum ratio, that 150% ratio. But it's that easy, really, with the MakerDAO CDP. And again, this is kind of cool because I don't have to wait 2 days for an application to go through with a centralized company. Nobody's going to run my credit score. I have the Ethereum that I want to put up as collateral, and that's all that matters. So this is one of the, I think, really more interesting things within the crypto landscape right now. And if you're wondering, like, hey, this is cool, but is anybody actually using this? Well, yeah, the answer is yes. And right now, if you go over here, right now on makerscan.io, there's a company, Instadap. They built some pretty cool stuff, instadap.io. They also have a pretty kind of user interface to create a CDP. But if you go over here, there is right now 2 million Ethereum being put up as collateral in MakerDAO CDPs. What is 2 million Ethereum? That's $210 million at this point in time, about $210 million that is currently within the MakerDAO CDP system. And that has actually minted 75 million DAI. So that's the kind of market cap of DAI at this point in time, or close to the market cap of DAI. And that's how DAI is created. You can actually utilize DAI at any point in time as well, throughout the ecosystem too. Like if I were to go over here to AirSwap, or any other kind of decentralized exchange, or any other tool out there, I'll connect to my MetaMask here, and I will pop into this. And if I were to go over here, and whether it's DAI or whether it's AirSwap or Kyber, if you want to use HitBTC, because that's like one of the centralized exchanges with a good amount of liquidity. But if I want to actually, so I want to sell that DAI. So I just got 200 DAI, and I wanted to sell that 200 DAI. I can simply go, I'll click this button, and I can get 1.84 ETH for it. And boom, within a few seconds here, we'll jack that up. I can go ahead and I could sell that DAI. So I just turned that 200 DAI that I got, and now I have another 1.86 Ethereum. So just like that, I basically levered myself up on Ethereum if I wanted to do that, or I can use that Ethereum in any other place or kind of any other time I want. But at a really high level, that is the construct of the MakerDAO CDP, and utilizing lending within MakerDAO. I think it's really cool because number one, like I said before, it's rather trustless. You do have to trust in some cases the fact that the Maker team is developing these smart contracts and the protocol to really be functioning long term. What happens if there is an issue with the smart contract or a technical bug or something of that nature? That's a problem, right? But outside of that, you have certain aspects like, this stability fee is 0.5%. That's basically your 0.5% annual interest. That is extremely low in comparison to the other alternatives. We go back over here, see, sold 200 DAI. So now I have that 1.84. ETH that I can utilize in any way that I want, which is it's pretty cool, pretty incredible. And this type of technology, when it comes down to it, I think is really important for the industry to move forward. Especially when you talk about kind of creating more open financial systems. There is nobody that is really going to be looking at this CDP, or there's nobody that's able to look at this kind of CDP in this process and say, hey, you don't have the credit rating for this, you don't have this, you don't have that. We're not going to allow you to take out this loan. If you have the collateral in place, you are able to do so. Now, it is not the same as an unsecured loan or anything like that. And as I said, there's drawbacks and positives and negatives to everything. But I wanted to give you as kind of as an informative and as high level of a video on this process as possible. Now, if you have any questions, I would love to answer them in the YouTube comments and on the podcast as well. Definitely feel free to sound off in the on Twitter if you're on the podcast at @crypto_Bobby. Would be fantastic to hear from you there as well if you have any questions. But hopefully this video was educational and informative to learn a little bit more about the process of these MakerDAO CDPs and why they're really important, I think, for the ecosystem. And one question, as we finish off here, one question I think a lot of people might have is, hey, I am a fan of this process. This seems pretty cool, that nobody can kind of tell me how to handle this, and I can do it on my own, whether it's doing a minimum collateralization ratio or really putting it up there. But I don't really like Ethereum. I don't really like ETH. I don't want to collateralize that. Well, apparently MakerDAO is working on a number of different kind of financial instruments that you can collateralize things with in the future. Maybe that might be something like that wrap Bitcoin that we've talked about in the past. There might be some other alternatives there as well. So I think as this industry continues to evolve, this is really the first step where you're collateralizing Ether, but I don't think it's going to stop at that. But guys, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, the notify bell. If you've been here for a while, hit that thumbs up button. Thank you so much for your time. Crypto Bobby signing out. Hope you have a good one. Peace.